Vice Mayor, did you get that proclamation?
I did. Thank you, Chris.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're live, so apologize for the delay
I
there.
got two of them here. One for you, and one for Mr. Harper.
Okay, we'll go ahead and start the committee of the whole meeting. I'm Kalamazoo Deputy City Manager Jeff Chamberlain, and welcome to tonight's committee of the whole meeting of Monday, December 20th, 2021. Tonight's meeting is being streamed live on the City of Kalamazoo's Facebook page, as well as the City of Kalamazoo's YouTube channel. You can listen to tonight's meeting by calling area code 269-552-6425 and entering meeting ID number 810-9887-4694 when prompted. And you can also call and leave a public comment. And that telephone number is area code 269-226-6573. And I'd like to start the meeting with Mayor David Anderson.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager Chamberlain. Appreciate it. I'd like to welcome everybody to this Kalamazoo Committee of the Whole meeting. Last one for 2021 and presumably the last one Zoom style for a while. So I'm calling the meeting to order for Monday, December 20th, 2021. Clerk Borling, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Decker.
Present in the City of Kalamazoo.
Commissioner Hess.
Present, City of Kalamazoo.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Present, City of Kalamazoo.
Commissioner Juarez.
Present in the City of Kalamazoo.
Commissioner Pradle.
Present in the City of Kalamazoo.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
Present in City of Kalamazoo.
Mayor Anderson.
Here in the City of Kalamazoo. Thank you so much, Clerk Borling. Manager Ritzma, are there any communications?
None, Your Honor.
Thank you. DCM Chamberlain, are there any public comments for this meeting?
Sir, we have no public comments for the committee of the whole.
Okay, so we are down to the discussion of reviewing items for upcoming City Commission agendas. DCM Chamberlain.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We have the 7 o'clock business meeting for the City Commission tonight, and that will be held virtually also. And at that meeting, we have 3 proclamations that will be at the beginning of the meeting. And we also have a public hearing regarding some rezonings for Alamo and Denner Street, rezoning to duplex as a request. And then on the consent agenda, there's a number of purchasing items for new contracts coming up. Also, as far as our public services goes, as well as some software purchases. We're setting a public hearing tonight for January 3rd, the budget public hearing. And so that was just an action tonight to set that public hearing. Also an action to set your formal calendar for 2022. A couple release of claims. It's an action coming from the city attorney's office. And then also receiving a grant from Recycling Partnership to help us with recycling, the tune of about $67,000 there. And then also some purchase and sales agreements that the city is entering into, and then also an amendment to the Northside Cultural Business District Authority's bylaws for their membership. We also have an ordinance tonight coming back for final adoption regarding a slight amendment to the bylaws for the Historic Preservation Commission. And then finally, we have an amended resolution for your rules of procedure regarding going back to in-person meetings and face mask rules. And then finally, there is a closed session tonight to discuss labor negotiations. I do believe we have 2 additions to the agenda for tonight's regular meeting. One is an item regarding a fireworks permit for New Year's Fest. So Clerk Borling will have information, we'll add that to the agenda. And then City Attorney Robinson has an item that just came up that we will need to add to the 7 o'clock agenda. And City Attorney Robinson, you wanted to say a few words about that.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager Chamberlain. This came in just at 4 o'clock this afternoon. I have sent an email to Commission and staff just before 5 o'clock outlining what this is about. The city has been asked to participate in a settlement of the national litigation over the opioid crisis with 3 distributors, McKesson, Cardinal Health and Amerisource Bergen. I think I put in my email as a $26 billion. That's not quite correct. It's like $21 billion that would be paid over 18 years. I wish I could tell you how much the city would receive. Unfortunately, this is a national settlement, and this is being handled mostly through states' attorney generals. The Attorney General Nesson has participated, or her office has participated on behalf of the state of Michigan and local municipalities eligible to receive some of that settlement money. The city of Kalamazoo is one of those eligible municipalities, and we would get some portion of that $21 billion over 18, it would be paid over 18 years, so it would not be a one-time payment. It is my recommendation that the city participate. The reason it is coming before you tonight is that there's a January 2nd, 2002 deadline in order to get the authorization documents submitted to the court to participate in the settlement. And like I said, it is my recommendation that the city of Kalamazoo do so. If you have any other questions that I might be able to answer, but this would authorize my office to participate in this national opioid settlement with the distributors. There may be in the future an additional settlement of $5 billion with Janssen Pharmaceuticals, whose parent company is Johnson & Johnson. That is also being worked on, but at this point, the participation is only for the settling distributors as opposed to the manufacturers.
Attorney Robinson, will you be asked for that to be added to the regular agenda at our business meeting then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's all, Mayor.
All right. Commissioner Pradel?
Sorry, Commissioner has had her hand up first, but I just had a question for City Attorney Robinson, if you would so allow it.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. City Attorney Robinson, I was just wondering, I haven't had a chance to look through the full PDF that you sent over, but I was just wondering, do you know if there are any settlement restrictions and how those monies are used for jurisdictions that decide to take advantage of it?
Like I said, I just got this at 4 o'clock. And I do not know. I think it's basically, yeah, I can't give you that information because I don't know.
And I can ask it at 7 o'clock, later tonight.
I'll try to find out.
Okay, sorry about that.
Commissioner Hess? Any other questions? Since we are adding this to that agenda, I think it's appropriate if we're going to have much discussion about it, that would occur at that time, if that's okay. Thank you, Attorney Robinson. All right, now we are down to F, our work session, which tonight is a presentation on 4-year Imagine Kalamazoo 2025. It's an update. Manager Risma?
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, this is the 4-year anniversary. Hard to believe. It's gone very quickly, but great work by our staff, and they're here this evening to present. We've got our city planner, Christina Anderson, and I'll let her take over and she can introduce all those that will be presenting. Christina?
Thank you, City Manager Ritzma. This is Christina Anderson. I'm the city planner, and I am here tonight to celebrate with you all 4 years of Imagine Kalamazoo. Technically, we're a hair late. I believe the actual birth date was October 17th, but better late than never. And with me tonight are Rebecca Kick, the Director of Community Planning and Economic Development, Anthony Ladd, who is the Assistant City Engineer, and Nolan Bergstrom, who you all met at one of our recent meetings. He's our newest staff in planning, our community planner. And so together we're going to give you a quick presentation on maybe not so quick, but a presentation on Imagine Kalamazoo, because it's really important that we pause and think about these things. You know, we don't often do that. We are always striving and moving forward. And this is an opportunity, a rare opportunity to pause and celebrate what we've done and look forward to what we have in the coming year. So if you give me just a second, I'm going to share my screen. Ooh, let's see here. Can everybody see that? Great.
Mhm. Yep.
So Imagine Kalamazoo. Kalamazoo Acts, again, celebrating 4 years of progress. We're going to do a very brief touch on Imagine Kalamazoo. We're going to talk about what goals we've achieved over the last 4 years. We're going to talk specifically about what's been happening in 2021. And many of the presenters are going to also talk about these activities also by looking back to what cumulatively has been achieved in the categories that we're talking about this evening. We'll do a quick preview to get a little wet your whistle, a little excited about what's coming in 2022. And of course, a nod and a thank you to the Foundation for Excellence, through which most of this would certainly be moving a little slower. We'll say that. So Imagine Kalamazoo. So Imagine Kalamazoo, as you know, started as an engagement process to create the master plan. It became quite a bit more for the city. It became kind of our work plan, our commitment to the community for community engagement. And from Imagine Kalamazoo and all the voices that were lifted up through the process, we received a lot of goals, a lot of community vision, and we worked on community trust building between staff and the commission and the community. And that is really why, again, we're here today to pause and recognize what we've done and where we need to move forward over the next coming years. You'll remember that the first document that came out of the strategic vision was of Imagine Kalamazoo was a strategic vision, and its birthday was in June of this year. So definitely about 6 months late, already at the half birthday, on our way to 5. 10 broad goals came out of Imagine Kalamazoo and the community voices. These are broad, 30,000 feet up, but really became the work plan for the city, all departments, whether you are in finance, planning, or public services, there's something in here for you to help move forward for our community. And because that document was so critical, when we wrote the master plan a few months later, we organized it, aligning each of the goals of the master plan and the tasks in the master plan with those strategic vision goals. And that allowed us to help keep track of how we were meeting what the community told us as expressed in the strategic vision. And since then, as we've written 7 neighborhood plans, North Side, East Side, Vine, Edison, Oakwood, Parkview Hills, and Winchell, we have continued that to make sure that what is in the neighborhood plans not only aligns with the master plan, but of course the strategic vision. And it's having these things in alignment that has allowed us to move the plan forward. Whether you are working on something that is a 10-year plan, like the master plan, a specific goal, kind of shorter term neighborhood plans or parks and rec plans that are 5 years, or you're working on the annual budget, all of it comes in alignment with the community vision as expressed through Imagine Kalamazoo. And so that leads us to what we are going to talk about tonight is, so what have we done over the last 4 years, and specifically in 2021? So the master plan, prior to adding any neighborhood plans into the document, for those new commissioners, when a neighborhood plan comes forward, it gets added through the Plan Commission and this body to the master plan and is incorporated as a chapter into it. The 136 actions are the original prior to adding neighborhood plans, master plan goals. They spanned 8 strategic goal visions, statements, and the goal was to finish it in 8 years. And I'm very happy to report that after 4 years, we're about 60% of the way there, which is pretty exciting. I appreciate that some of us are planning nerds, right? And we get very excited as we go through documents, but this wasn't just a plan, right? This was kind of a compact with the community. It was what we heard through Imagine Kalamazoo, what were the priorities, what were the visions that got put into this master plan document. And then it's our job as city staff to complete that as much as possible within the time frame allowed. And so in a blink of an eye, we are going to be talking about Imagine Kalamazoo 2035. Remembering how we were able to achieve this, what our lessons learned will be really important as we turn to that. So what's going to happen now is between Anthony, Rebecca, Nolan, and I, we're going to go through the strategic goals and talk about actions in 2021 that helped us get to this 60% completion rate. Also a little bit of a look back cumulatively over the years as well. And then we'll talk about what's next. So the first strategic vision goal, and one of the most important in the master plan, are complete neighborhoods. These are residential areas that support the full range of people's daily needs. And I'm going to turn it over to Director Kick.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. So one of the most critical projects that has happened within the complete neighborhoods, the direct master plan actions, creating rehabilitation and infill strategies for affordable housing. What's really great about this project is while it has taken us literally all 4 years to really see infill housing come to fruition, you have to understand that we had a lot of barriers ahead of us. So one of them was financing, which Planner Anderson mentioned, and having the Foundation for Excellence certainly has helped us with our infill housing strategy. The other was zoning. When Planner Anderson and I started to work on this goal and really understand how to bring infill housing, new single family homes and duplexes into our neighborhoods, we had a lot of barriers in front of us. And I'm going to pass it to Planner Anderson in here in a minute to describe some of those. But so even though you're seeing 13 new housing units built, that was in 2021. And the fact is 0 housing units would have been built without the Foundation for Excellence, without our partnerships that we have, and without the zoning changes that we did. So, before this time, we were doing nothing. So the fact that we have 13 is just absolutely makes my heart swell. That we are putting truly affordable homes into our neighborhoods at this time. The second thing that we've been working on in 2021 and we're going to continue working on in 2022 are pre-approved plans that are in progress for new housing. If you drive down Rose Street right now and you see the corner of Wall and Rose, you will see 2 duplexes with garages and carriage houses going up. And those are our pre-approved planned sets. Those sets will be available to the public. We're hoping sometime in 2022. But what was really important is that we built them first and that we found out how they worked, how they were financed, every little piece of them, and that you had a model to walk through and see what they would look like, as well as for banks to have comparative models of those homes already in the city. So I'm excited to say that this is what we were able to accomplish with our infill housing in 2021.
Thank you, Director Kick. This is Christina Anderson again. Rebecca was correct in that zoning was, we found immediately out of the gate for Imagine Kalamazoo and master plan, a barrier to a lot of the housing goals. And since that time, we have been slowly updating the zoning code, including 2 projects this year that were very specific to neighborhoods. So the first earlier this year, probably mid-year, did a second update of zoning in the North Side neighborhood. This was done with the goal to preserve existing housing and to build new housing to accommodate all residents' needs. And so we found that the zoning in this area, which was predominantly manufacturing, though that was not the predominant underlying use of those lots, needed to be updated in order to make sure that the houses that existed there were made whole, meaning that they are permitted by the zoning code, allowed to continued and expanded, and in other areas to make sure that we are supporting a variety of businesses at a walkable neighborhood scale. A second project was also done in 2021 along similar lines in the east side. Both of these projects came from neighborhood plans and specific goals that were done in the neighborhood plans following the master plan. The East Side zoning project focused on properties along East Main. Many were a mix of kind of single focus districts like office only or commercial when there was a very clear mix of residential and commercial. And we wanted to make sure that the zoning districts reflected that mix, supported the scale and the size of the buildings to help move the vision of the East Side neighborhood plan forward. And I'll turn it over to Nolan.
Hello, everyone. This is Nolan. So the Kalamazoo Roots project was a partnership effort between KVCC Valley Hub staff, who created tutorial videos, Q&A sessions, and a Facebook page, CPED staff, who connected FFE funding to the project, as well as connected with the neighborhoods, and 3 neighborhood associations, Oakwood, Vine, and Eastside, all of which had completed complete neighborhood plans and had identified increasing access to fresh, affordable, and healthy food as high neighborhood priorities. So in the spring of 2021, nearly 100 gardening kits were prepped by KVCC and then distributed to residents to use during the spring, summer, and fall of 2021. And we had 30 respondents for our exit survey. Happy to announce that 100% of them would recommend the program to others. 97% would participate again, and 92% do plan to continue gardening. Next slide, please. And with these kits, participants were able to produce food that was theirs, and the program enabled them to learn about the gardening process and gain new skills. The kits are reusable, and some participants had stated they're going to continue using them in the future. Others said that they would be open to becoming volunteers or ambassadors to the program, which would really aid staff into the future as we try to branch out and bring this project to other neighborhoods. It's a really good example of what having completed the neighborhood plan and having an action plan ready can do, and how this small project can really have a large ripple effect. So the natural next step is utilizing experiences learned from the program to reach other neighborhoods and continue fostering the partnership with KVCC.
Thanks. Our second goal is environmental responsibility, a green and healthy city. And this will be Anthony Ladd.
Yeah, Anthony Ladd, Public Services. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Yeah, this is a great program that I'm personally excited about that we've done here, City of Kalamazoo, involving our urban forest infrastructure, our right-of-way trees in particular. For the last 2 years, we have had planting goal initiatives of 100 trees in 2020, and then 300 trees planted this year in 2021. That was largely done with Foundation for Excellence money. It wouldn't have been possible without them. Just with the size and scope and the need that we have in the city for our right-of-way trees. In addition to those plantings, that we've done the past couple of years, we've made a commitment to increasing that planting size every year that we can, trying to up that and kind of outdo ourselves. A goal that we've had is 500 trees a year. I think next year we have a really good chance of trying to do that. It's a really positive project that gets a lot of support from the community, from the Foundation for Excellence, and from the city at large. So we're really excited about that. The other this project as part of this that really contributed towards Imagine Kalamazoo goals and bettering our environment for the future was the completion of a citywide tree inventory that was done this summer. Over several months, we had a consultant come through and literally walk the entire city right-of-way, mapping, surveying, and doing condition assessment for all right-of-way trees. This was exciting just to see what the final results were. You know, we had anecdotal information, and the last survey was actually done 20 years ago. So we knew a lot had changed, and just really interested to see what had changed in that amount of time, but also allow us to have tools for future planting projects, trying to target areas that tree canopy was lacking, or ways that we can work in our different city neighborhoods to kind of put trees where they're needed and best environmental benefit for others. The results of that survey was that we had over 22,000 trees just in our city right-of-way alone. So when you consider that based with the size of our crews that we have here at the city and the amount of dollars that we've been applying in recent years through the Foundation for Excellence for our forestry needs, it really speaks to how large of a scale of an asset class that we're talking about. The canopy coverage from those right-of-way trees alone covers over 300 acres. The condition assessment itself was fairly good. I think most trees were in the fair category. I think one thing in particular that was interesting was we have a very mature forest. Around 18% of our trees are less than 6-inch caliper or smaller. So again, not anything that we didn't know, but as that asset is aging, we get more of environmental benefit, which is great, but it's also speaks to the work that we have to do. The amount of pollution removal was almost 8 tons a year, with carbon sequestration of 350 tons a year. So there's a huge environmental impact for those trees being located in our right-of-way. The amount of water that those trees use to and keep off of our stormwater infrastructure from overloading that is a huge environmental benefit. And we're just really excited to be able to have this information, couple that with targeted tree planting projects for the future.
Thank you, Anthony. This is Christina again. 2 other exciting environmental or recycling projects that we did in 2021. The first one we talked about last week at the budget meeting was the Tire Blitz, where about 3,700 tires were collected for recycling. The other recycling project this year is a pilot program that is being supported through the Environmental Concerns Committee. And it is a EPS foam recycling program. And we look forward to having numbers to report back to you next year on the amount of material that was recycled through this program, but it's so far proven to be very popular. And I will turn it over to Nolan to talk about natural features protection.
Oh, this is Nolan again. So NFP Phase 1 was a really great start, and approximately 300 parcels were included in the initial version of the overlay district. But not long after that adoption, through community comments about gaps and data limitations at the time, sort of guided staff towards a second phase of implementation of the overlay district and a large review of it. And so NFP Phase 2 really, the goal was to leverage publicly available data, staff capacity, and the expertise of the NFP board members alongside community input and engagement, and form some case studies around building a more robust and scientifically objective district. And so out of that, really, it was expanded to include 1,400 parcels. And concurrent to that mapping was a revision of the written standards to accommodate parcels falling within various zoning districts. So making it more clear cut what the language is, what it means, and how to apply it. And so some of these outcomes have been extremely positive, where we see parcels that are heavily wooded that would have otherwise been clear cut. And so to Anthony's point, we would have been not losing right-of-way trees, but losing the canopy that we want to foster as well to protect. And so working with developers to help them understand what the positives are around protecting these natural resources. And it works similarly, not just with trees, but with our waterways as well, which are shared ecological areas that are sensitive to potential pollution and human influence. So in this example, the site plan changed to, instead of housing diesel fuel closer to the river, housing the propane there instead, going for a propane alternative, which is much safer in that proximity to the river. So overall, the time will tell as phase 2 is implemented, but thus far, lots of success and the ability to adapt it later.
Thanks, Nolan. Economic vitality is next, and Director Kick is going to talk to us about that. Economic vitality is growing businesses and stabilizing the local economy to the benefit of all.
Thank you, Planner Anderson. So first, I want to talk about our business development fund and the business support that we were able to do over 2021. And this particular fund really helped with small businesses funding for doing activities like marketing, new websites, small build outs under $5,000, getting them accounting services or any other kinds of technical assistance that they needed to either expand their business or keep it growing or to start it up. And so by us being able to invest in businesses this way, again, through the Foundation for Excellence, was something that we were never able to do before. And being able to give these just grants, $5,000 grants to entrepreneurs throughout our city has been just a real game changer, I believe, for especially during COVID. The next slide, please. The other exciting program that we have been able to do are facades. And last year we did 10 grants of $25,000 for storefront improvements. And we are going to continue this program in 2022 as well. And this again has been a program that we've been able to introduce into our shared prosperity neighborhoods, the North Side, East Side, and Edison. And we've really targeted those core corridor areas where a lot of our businesses have existed for a really long time. And now we're being able to give them facade improvement grants.
Thank you, Director Kick. The next strategic vision goal that we're going to be talking about tonight is Connected City, a city that is networked for walking, biking, riding, and driving. And this is going to be Anthony Ladd.
Hello, it's Anthony Ladd again. Connected neighborhoods is something that has, the last couple of years, we have really tried in our department to kind of re-envision the road space. I think there's been a trend nationally, but certainly in this area, from the master plan, there was a big motivation to look at our streets differently and really utilize that right-of-way space for all road users. And when we say that, it's really anyone that is utilizing city right-of-way space. Certainly it's vehicular traffic, but also bicyclists, non-motorized users like pedestrians, and then also those who are using our city bus system, Metro Transit. So trying to share that right-of-way space and kind of in a more equitable way to all road users is something that we've really emphasized in our road design and in our conversations or capital planning projects for the last couple of years. And it's been really great, with that interdepartmental collaboration, working with CPED and public safety to really understand what the best use of this right-of-way space is, and envisioning that through the master plan, and also working with neighborhoods as they're developing neighborhood plans, but also since those have been developed, kind of using those as a blueprint to help incorporate our decision-making process when we're putting these plans together, and also working with our other asset classes, our drinking water, our sanitary sewer, our storm water, to make sure that we're really taking a holistic approach to these streets. So like this slide mentions, one of our biggest focuses, and coincidentally almost one of our easiest ones to do, has been bike lanes. And that's been looking at the city as a whole and creating a bike network, understanding what nodes or routes are important to neighborhoods. And we've relied heavily through CPED's engagements that they've had with residents and businesses to understand what routes are most important and where can we add this dedicated bicycle infrastructure that makes the road safer for bicyclists. So to add 4.1 miles this year alone has been great. Besides our bike lanes that are actually on the road, another place that we're targeting to build infrastructure that creates a safe environment for non-motorized users are shared use paths. And shared use paths are different than a on-street bike lane or a sidewalk in that they are larger and they provide a bigger area to accommodate more users and allow for safer travel on those. And to add 1.2 miles this year has been great. These pictures were from the KVRT project that had happened in collaboration with the Bank Street realignment and also Farmers Market project. Has been a really great addition. We also did a new shared use path on Howard Street in front of Western Michigan University. And I think we'll talk about it in our 2022 plans, but we will be adding to that network next year. Again, another type of road feature that we've really emphasized these last couple of years has been sidewalks. It was great to see the amount of sidewalk that we've actually been able to repair in compared to what the goal was in the master plan action item. We have really made strides to repair the existing sidewalk, and we are now kind of incorporating new sidewalk where there hasn't been any before, to complete gaps or to put sidewalk where it makes sense. A lot of sidewalk is just like our roads. It's been around for a long time and had either deteriorating conditions, or maybe the standards have changed and the needs of the users themselves have changed over time. So as those have adapted into design processes, we've been able to go in and make these ADA compliant, make them wider, make them flatter, and just more available for all non-motorized users. And to be able to do the amount of work that we have with sidewalk the last 2 years has been incredible. Again, largely due to the Foundation for Excellence and partnering with them. This is another great project that we get a lot of good feedback that, improved sidewalk or new sidewalk, anywhere we can add it is a wanted feature. This is kind of a picture to explain the process. It can look invasive, but you can see the end result. A lot of this is due to the ADA compliance that we have to adhere to when we're building new sidewalk, which is a good thing. We're glad to do it, but it is a process, and it's not a quick one. So to be able to do this amount of work has been great. This is a picture of our non-motorized pathway that I mentioned along Howard Street. It connects to a non-motorized path further south on Howard and then up towards the university. This is a picture of our Portage Street project. This was our big MDOT local agency job this year. It included some streetscape features. Also are making, furthering this into a more further complete streets with bike lanes, wider sidewalks, pedestrian street lighting, and also water main improvements as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. I think you're up again for safe community, so don't go too far. Creating a safe environment for living, working, and playing.
So for this, it's kind of a broad term when we mention traffic calming. This has been a large emphasis for the last couple of years, trying to incorporate different roadway items, either design elements or signs or pavement markings that bring attention to driver behavior, trying to encourage users to focus on what's in front of them and to not be distracted. Over the last couple of years, we've been able to install 18 speed radar units. Not only do you get the benefit of bringing awareness to the potential speeding driver in the moment, but also the data that's recorded allows us to understand what kind of traffic volumes we have and speeds as well that can aid in our data-driven decisions when we do these traffic calming implementations or for future design, capital design projects. We've also, in the last couple of years, installed speed humps with our asphalt crews, and we've seen a large success with those, certainly when they're implemented correctly, and we've been able to learn from that. And in future years, 2022 and forward, we'll be implementing more traffic calming processes. That it is a pretty big, wide array, and we're trying to make a real systematic decision making as we roll those into our process, and ultimately this ends up with us having an official traffic calming policy and procedure to help guide our decision making process, but also allow for a way for residents to formally request or bring attention to what they're seeing on their streets. This is one of our traffic calming projects this year, Greenleaf Boulevard in Parkview Hills. This was a project that I guess was first mentioned or brought to our attention through the neighborhood plan, and incorporating their vision and the concerns that they had, we were able to again implement road narrowing and make it more friendly for all users, whether you're a bicyclist, a pedestrian, or someone driving on the street. Park in Westnedge, this was our other large-scale traffic calming project this year. This was done in collaboration with some of the speed studies that we had done in previous years, taking that information. There was a large engagement element that CPED had been responsible for earlier this year and maybe late last year as well, trying to understand from residents what they wanted, what they were seeing, what was most dangerous along these two streets here. And to do that incrementally, again, make small changes with large results, we were able to add LED flashing signs, add additional pavement markings, bring more visibility to pedestrians, bring more awareness that there are other cars around drivers in hopes to ultimately drive speeds down, but make drivers more aware and focused in the moment. Winchell Avenue was another opportunity for us to implement some of our traffic calming items. 2 years ago, or in 2020, we had deployed speed radar units there. This year we came back with narrowing lanes or making them really right size is a more accurate term to use. Adding bike lanes and then also making a dedicated drop-off area for the elementary school there. This is the kind of work that we intend to do in future years on projects when we can add them in there as needed if there is a wide road or crash data that shows this is something we should take a look at and we can implement our traffic calming procedures. Also, a huge part of public services is our water group. First and foremost, replacing lead services annually. I know Director Baker has spoken on this topic for the past for several meetings here recently, so I won't go into detail, nor can I that he does. But it is worth mentioning that there have been 847 lead services replaced this year as of the end of November, with more planned for 2022. This was something that was seen on a large scale basis beginning in 2016, and in making those service replacements when we can. And then also, I think a large component to this is education as well. And I don't know, Christina, you might get into that on the next slide, but doing this out in the open and educating citizens as we're doing this, working with homeowners that might have concerns, making testing available for anyone that requests it, and also having the filters for concerned citizens to pick up from city services has been a large component of this program.
Thanks, Anthony. So the last program in this, I'm going to highlight very quickly because we did talk about it last week at budget. The budget meeting is lead paint remediation. Again, making our investing in lead remediation strategies that support the rehabilitation of our existing housing stock. And the lead paint was remediated in 15 homes in 2021. We're going to talk next about shared prosperity, abundant opportunities for all people to prosper. And some of the great programs that continued and occurred in 2021 include the Patient Care Academy, which is a Northside neighborhood-based workforce development program to improve access to in-demand career training. And of the first cohort, the first class, 6 of the first 8 graduates are employed in their field. Parent Literacy Together focuses on multi-generational learning in order to provide high quality education and resources to prepare residents of Kalamazoo for diverse employment, deployment opportunities, and career advancement. And another one that's new this year that was pretty exciting is our Shared Prosperity SBK podcast, discussing issues affecting poverty and prosperity. Specifically, the podcast examines issues that unlock or block people's opportunity to thrive, prosper, and exit poverty. The episodes incorporate community planning and economic development elements. And this podcast is hosted by our very own Kevin Ford, Shared Prosperity Kalamazoo Coordinator, and our Neighborhood Business and Special Projects Coordinator, Melody Dakin. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out, I would encourage that you do so soon. I believe there are 6 episodes currently available. Youth Development, a city with places and supports that help young people thrive. I can never do these programs as much justice as Director Fletcher would, but on his behalf, talking first about tonight about the Youth Action Council. It's a group of youth from ages 13 to 18 that advise Kalamazoo Parks programs and plans. They have found this to be quite a successful program to help support youth and leadership. The Super Rec program starts right at the end of the school year and runs through mid-August. It provides activities every day for our youth. And in 2021, 248 youth were served, and there were 5 neighborhood sites in Kalamazoo. For our older youth, there were a variety of opportunities for teens. There were 28 counselor in training youth that participated in the Super Rec program. 139 teens participated in the My City Kalamazoo program, and 28 in All Things Possible. And just a quick reminder for those that may not know, All Things Possible is college and career exploration for youth entering high school, and it's hosted by WMU, Western Michigan University. And part of it is to avoid the summer slide, prepare students to excel in high school, and support social and emotional learning. Youth and Teen Facility Feasibility Study. This is a feasibility study to determine the location, cost, and what activities and programs would be included for a youth and teen facility in Kalamazoo. And we'll have more information on the results of this study in 2022. Inviting public places, parks, arts, culture, and vibrant streets. There are a variety of master plan tasks under the Inviting Public Places category. I'll talk about a couple quickly because I think most of them are familiar to you. First of all, the farmers market. That work largely happened in 2021. The renovations will be completed this spring to expand the reach of the market to more residents in Kalamazoo. A variety of park projects, including updates at MLK, where walkways were repaired, trees were planted, new benches, trash cans, and electrical service. And the plans for MLK Park were created through conversations with the Northside Association for Community Development, NECD, the Kalamazoo Junior Girls, and the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And these type of projects are that continued expression of Imagine Kalamazoo and making sure that the work that we do, whether it's in the Parks Department or others, is meeting the immediate needs of those that are going to be impacted by that work. New in 2021 is the Adopt a Park program, where volunteers can apply to care for a park. And this year, 22 parks and green spaces were adopted. Activities include helping to pick up litter, branches, tending any flower beds, and overall caring for the park. So that's what's happened this past year and looking back the last 4 years. Very quickly, just to get you all excited, I'm going to talk about a quick preview of what's coming in 2022 to kind of further complete those master plan goals. There will be more zoning work, starting first with a commercial zoning update, specifically updating the commercial districts, the sign code, landscaping, and lighting, both in text as well as in the zoning map. And the intent of this is to make sure that we're having flexible mix of uses in our districts, those that reflect the character of our commercial corridors and nodes. And again, trying to achieve the vision in the master plan to make sure that land use, what happens on lots, is working in harmony with what's going on in our streets. West Edgem Park Phase Two, Anthony talked already about Phase One. This will continue the work in the north side to focus within the roadway, striping bike lanes, looking at on-street parking. That work will also happen in the Vine neighborhood, and crosswalks and public art will be done in both the north side and the Vine neighborhoods. Parkview Avenue is going to finally be redone after a couple of years of delay, and had the opportunity to add an element to the project that was called for in both the Oakwood neighborhood plan as well as the Oakland Winchell neighborhood plan, and that is an opportunity for pedestrians to safely cross between the lights at Greenleaf and all the way to the west, and Oakland all the way to the east. And so that project will be coming up this year. Stadium Drive, excuse me. Again, Anthony mentioned this, the addition of a shared use path to connect the shared use path on Howard Street. And if you excuse me, I'm gonna cough real quick. Sorry about that. Stadium Drive will also see within the roadway an expanded landscape medium. And Anthony, if you want to talk for a minute about the two-way traffic, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. This was we finally completed the preliminary I guess research phase for our two-way street network. I think when we say that, it really focuses on not just one particular street, but how our downtown area traffic patterns are affected in general. By going from one way to two-way direction, we're able to not only improve access for the roads themselves, but also through that re-envisioning of the street right-of-way space in general. Really focus on all road users when we're doing this. This was extensively, I guess, over the last couple of years, there was extensive engagement and conversation and working with our consultant on trying to get a better idea of just what is possible with these streets. So in 2022, we are going to go back out into the community and confirm what we've seen and look at the input that we've received through these series of meetings that we had in 2020. It's been a little while, but go back out and kind of look at this input that we've been given from our consultant, from our internal stakeholders, and from the public, and then move that into beginning design phase for these streets, particularly beginning with the Kalamazoo Avenue and Michigan Ave. And then maybe Christina, you might want to speak on the market studies and the historical context.
Certainly, to support this work in 2022, we'll be updating the market study that was done through initially for the master plan by the Gibbs Planning Group. We will be doing environmental studies, often referred to as NEPA, and historic studies, and these are to support the design and ultimate construction of these streets. We'll be working on budgets, funding, and as many iterative steps as possible, knowing that this work takes a while. There are things that we can do to our streets today and next year that will help us meet our goals in the meantime. The West Edgem Park work is an example of that iterative work that we do while we plan and budget for larger street projects. The sustainability strategy will be before this board. We've talked about it a couple times in early 2022 for review and adoption. Youth Master Plan, which will be a 10-year plan for the Kalamazoo Parks and Recreation Department that will focus on how to expand programs, activities, and events and eliminate barriers such as transportation when providing those events and trying to get the Kalamazoo youth to those events. So that will start in 2022. A couple of parks will see, a couple more parks will see some work. The Lacrome Park splash pad will be finished this summer. And the Millen Park Playground will be updated this year. Play area for both ages 2 to 5 and 5 to 11 will be planned for this year, work this year. And we've talked about it several times. You know, this work cannot have happened without the Foundation for Excellence. 52.7 million has been invested from the Foundation for Excellence since 2017 for aspirational projects tied to the vision in Imagine Kalamazoo, tied to the community vision. And 8.5 of that was spent in 2021 for the projects that Anthony, Nolan, Rebecca, and I shared with you this evening. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you for allowing us to spend some time with you and talk about Imagine Kalamazoo in 2021, looking back and, you know, getting excited about the projects that we expect to happen in the next couple of years. We're happy to entertain any questions if you have them.
First of all, thank you very, very much. Really, really appreciate. I mean, this is a lot. You know, we try to simplify it, put it out how we can, but there's a lot going on. So thank you, Christina, Rebecca, Anthony, and Nolan. And I see that there's a question from Commissioner Juarez. Yes, sir.
Yes. So on some of these, like the traffic calming stuff, speed bumps and stuff like that, that's all like done through the neighborhood associations more so than anything?
No, not necessarily. We receive comment from a variety of sources, whether it is individuals, from neighborhood associations. Many neighborhoods who completed their neighborhood plans called out specific locations for the city to study and do actions on. And so those are kind of, you know, easy to do first because they were done through a community engagement process and provided a lot of information. But the work that, and 2 examples of that were done this year were Parkview Hills and Winchell Avenue. But, you know, in working with residents, Dennis Randolph, who's not here tonight, our fantastic traffic engineer, did a really cool project on Emerald Drive, working with the residents there to do a shared path on street. And that came out of conversations that individuals had on a block with upcoming work. And so again, you know, we're working on a way to make sure that all the comments come in, have an opportunity to be reviewed. We have a lot of data at our fingertips. We have traffic data for the last 9 years. We can go out and do speed studies. We can do studies on cut through traffic to understand if that's what the issue is. Because when you talk about traffic calming, there are a lot of tools out there, but not all tools are right for each issue. And so we need to really kind of understand the problem. So we collect the comments and the concerns from the community, the neighborhood associations and neighborhood plans, businesses, however they come in. We study the lot of them a couple times a year and then figure out a work plan for the following year.
Yeah, I think because for me, like the perception has always been like, and this is because I was unaware of how the process went, you know, like a lot of the traffic calming and things that went up in 2020 and 2021 were areas for me that like so I live in Edison neighborhood. I live on Washington Street, right in between March and James. And then on that street, there's people who drive down this street doing 80 miles per hour. There's high gun violence. I mean, you know, there's a lot of craziness just happening on that street. And so I see a lot of like the main streets and other areas like Portage and like Winchell and other areas that are being developed, but like inside the core neighborhoods, like inside where a lot of this stuff is happening, like, you know, I'd like to see some of that stuff, you know, take place. And so for me, I'm super encouraged to know that this could be driven by just the community, right? And I think, you know, there's a greater perception from the community, like, well, the city only cares about the more affluent parts of our city, right? Which is concerning that perception's out there, right? And so it's just good for me to hear this stuff, to be able to educate my neighbors, to educate the people who live in this community, to be able to take action and see, those things come to fruition for their communities. And so I just appreciate the information.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll also say that we had a meeting, staff met on this topic today, and we'll be putting a lot of this information up online before the end of January that talks about what I just talked about, right? How ideas come in, how the city reviews and processes them, and including the likely sites for review and action this year. And so we hope to have all of that online so we can be, always very transparent and working with the community. We don't want anyone's comment to get lost. We want to make sure that we're able to funnel them into the right spot and that we have the right amount of time to review and study them, so we're providing the best outcome for everybody.
Thank you, Planner Anderson. Commissioner Hess.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for that lovely presentation. I know my first year as a commissioner, when I heard this presentation, I was blown away. And I'm even more blown away now because we just continue to do the work. So thank you. I know that traffic calming is really an issue that our entire community wants to address. However, I have a question for Anthony. And it's about you mentioned the tree canopy. There was a question today on my neighborhood group. Hey, does anybody know what kind of trees the city's putting up? And there's markers there. And what if I don't want them? And how do they communicate with me? I advised them to call 311. Now, can you help me, Anthony, to help the people who are going to receive trees in their right of way?
Absolutely. This is Anthony Ladd speaking. But yeah, to your point, this tree planting project on this scale, this is the second successful one that we've been able to do. First in 2020 and now in 2021. But a lot of these programs that are so big and there's so many moving pieces, whether it's traffic calming, sidewalk, or tree planting, just the size of them alone, and them being so new to residents, to city staff, new city staff, and it is a work in process. However, and engagement for tree plantings specifically, something that we've had conversation about for upcoming projects, is now that we have this tree inventory completed and we have the tree planting spaces available on a shapefile, we can pull up and look, allows us to be more proactive and start these conversations with residents much sooner in the process for putting this project out to bid, to where by the time that project goes to on the city website for bidders, for contractors, that we've already had conversations with each homeowner to understand that they're getting a tree, or that they want a tree, because that's half of it too. We plant those trees and we include a 2-year maintenance agreement from the contractor, but that tree's going to have a much higher chance of success if the resident wants it to be there. They're going to look after it and take care of it. So this year, before that project began, we did door hangers and postcards to each resident to let them know that their curb lawn had been selected as an ideal condition for tree planting. We did get comments back from those, from residents when they received that postcard. There was contact information to call 311 and let us, give us that feedback. Additionally, before the planting itself is actually done, there is the tree planting flag that's placed where that tree is to go, and that's also so that utilities can be marked out so that nothing gets hit when it's being excavated for planting. And we've gotten comments from residents at that time too that they did not want a tree planting there, and we've been very responsive for that. We remove the flag and we find a home for that tree where it's wanted. Fortunately or unfortunately, we have so much right-of-way space available that we have that flexibility to work with residents that want trees, because we do get that throughout the year too. Whether they want a tree or not, we're getting that feedback from 311, and it is being documented. That is the best way to do it. But it's our plan in future years to really work on that engagement process to where there's fewer incidences where residents have to call 311 about the tree planting.
Thank you so much. And thanks for paying such attention and such intricate attention to the tree canopy. That's so important. On another environmental issue, just really quickly, you mentioned the styrofoam recycling program, and then the last pilot pickup at Mayor's Riverfront Park is to be on 129 on January 29th. However, intuitive and forward-thinking residents have said, why don't we have a pickup on January 1st after the holidays, where people receive things and gifts that are packaged in styrofoam. So that number 6 foam, that the white, I believe that we are going to be able to do that, and to keep an eye out on your city media for that, because there will be a 1-1 drop off at Mayor's Riverfront Park. Please don't throw your styrofoam into the landfills. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hess. Other questions for city team here? Commissioner Pradle.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is Commissioner Pradle. Anthony, I just had a question for you, if you don't mind as well. So I've been really interested in the traffic calming work that we've been doing, and particularly like the phase 1 of Westnedge that we worked on this year. I know that there's still a continuation to go with that phase 2. It escapes me where, I know it went from Dunkley, but I can't remember where it stopped this year. But my question is you mentioned about how those solar speed radar units that we plugged in do monitoring, so we can kind of gauge any improvements that we're seeing in traffic. Can you just speak to that a little bit about what we're learning so far, if there's still time to learn from phase 1, and whether that can kind of inform phase 2 is it before it goes in on Westnedge there?
Absolutely. This is Anthony Ladd. So the data that we get from those speed radar units is one pool of data for us that's available. It provides traffic counts, how many cars are traveling down the road at what times and at what speeds. We can see, a range. You can interpret the data to kind of pull driver behavior. Is it rush hour traffic? Is it late night, early morning, midday? How many cars are we seeing here? We're also learning that traffic calming on one street, we knew this, but we're seeing in the data that traffic calming on one street can affect your traffic speeds and volumes on another street. So we are trying to move in a way that makes sense. Looking at that data, we are pulling it on a regular basis, and there's other factors, environmentally, your weather conditions, whether school's in, school's out. You really need time to get a full body of data to kind of really glean that information off of, and using that to derive our decision making. There are certain things, though, that inherently you can do to make a road safer or bring awareness that data isn't necessary for. such as, enhanced crosswalks where you have existing, cross pavement markings where people are crossing, you have the ramps, everything's there. Bringing awareness to that crossing, you don't necessarily need information such as that to make that decision. Something else that we do is we perform traffic counts throughout the city. I think every 3 years we get data on every single street. CPED has done several pedestrian and bicyclist studies and counts to get that information. And that really kind of drives our traffic calming process. I think something too, as much as traffic calming has been mentioned tonight, we're using this information to decide what we can do from a public services standpoint on sign installation, pavement markings, road features. But traffic calming in general is we are one part of traffic calming solution for the city. That's us doing our part. That's CPED, with engagement. That's public safety with enforcing the traffic laws and bringing awareness to issues for drivers. Ultimately, driver behavior is a part of that as well. Working with communities and neighborhoods to kind of talk about the issues and just have conversation to understand where these problems are located. And that all of that helps us drive our decision-making process for these road projects and where we implement traffic calming installations.
So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that phase two. I know there has been pretty significant amount of resident engagement, both in Northside and Vine, related to that whole corridor there. So thank you for that information. The other thing, I guess this is much of one is a question, one of them is a comment as well. I'm just kind of curious in terms of those pedestrian crosswalks that have I don't know the correct term, but basically the like those cones that kind of jet out into the roadways. Just anecdotally, as I have seen those. I have seen a number of occasions where pedestrians will be standing there and kind of skittishly standing off to the side. And, I'm just wondering about kind of what your vision is to, create a culture in our community where pedestrians can confidently walk up to a street and people just intuitively know, I'm going to slow down and stop for these people to cross the street. Do you think that we're kind of in early phases of making that happen? Do you think there are other things we can do to communicate or whatever to improve that? But I just, I look forward to that day when that's just part of the ingrained culture where we truly respect each other in different modes of getting around.
Absolutely. And I'm excited about it and look forward to that future as well. I think that is something that we're working towards, on a steady basis. I mean, it really drives our conversations. Using right-of-way space for all users, not solely vehicular traffic. I think that the crosswalk ordinance went into effect and those signs were installed right before COVID. I think that really kind of took some momentum away from that movement. Similar to our other traffic calming efforts, it takes discussion, it takes awareness, it takes us bringing attention to those crosswalks and bringing attention to the ordinance. You have people moving into the city every day that might not have heard about that or curious themselves what those signs mean and what they can and can't do. I think also by building up those pedestrian facilities, making more mid-block crossings, ADA compliant ramps, flashing LED signs, all those things are going to, I guess, encourage or give confidence to the pedestrian that it's not just one, that car driver doesn't see the one person, they see the flashing lights, they see the pavement markings, they see the signs, and ultimately that'll turn into a learned behavior.
Yeah, thank you. And this is Chris again. Just one comment I want to add is back to the whole communication component. And this is just kind of a message to the administration again, is just that I can't emphasize enough the importance that we, double down, triple down on resources we're devoting to communication. Like I've loved to hear the strategies about door hangers and, outreach groups that have been going to doors to talk to residents and whatnot. But that's so vitally important. I think we have to really get creative in how we diversify the ways that we communicate with people and share the great things that we have going on, and not just on social media and not just in a newsletter. We got to find a lot of other creative ways to do it too. But, a good example is somebody I know sent me a picture from another community where when they're doing leaf pickup or bulk pickup, trash pickup in neighborhoods, they actually have crews that go out and put out yard signs on the intersections and corners of the road that say, hey, next week your street is due to have leaf pickup. So people aren't kind of guessing when the crews are going to be hitting their roadways next. And it's things like that I think that, could be like innovative strategies we try that really help to communicate with people that maybe aren't super resource intensive, but are more creative. It's just, not to use an example, but, when the financial collapse happened, most companies, when the going gets tough, they cut marketing and communication dollars. And the companies that were most advantageous were the ones that doubled down in marketing and communication when the financial collapse happened. I mean, that's how Ford survived without taking federal bailouts, and the same with us. A lot of times we have the tendency to want to invest all the money because we want to catch up on infrastructure and all these different things. But, in a lot of ways, it's like if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around, does anybody hear it? Well, the same deal is with all the great work that we're doing. I want to make sure that people know what's going on in their communities, and we can, really make sure everybody knows about it. So I'll get off that soapbox. But anyways, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Pradel. Other questions? Commissioner Hoffman.
Good evening, Mayor. This is Commissioner Hoffman. I don't have any questions. Thank you for the presentation. I thought it was wonderful, very informative. We kind of breezed right through the agenda for our business meeting coming up. And I had a couple of questions about some of the things on the consent agenda. And so I didn't know, where can we go back to that? And I bring those up now, or should I do that at 7?
In my opinion, it would be fine. One of the first things we do on our business agenda is ask if anyone wants anything moved from the consent agenda to the regular agenda. So during that meeting is a fine time to do that. And then anyone who might have been interested in that agenda, who may not have turned into this meeting, but are waiting for the business meeting, because that's when it's showing that we're going to talk about it. If they do show up for that, then they'll be able to hear any discussion during the time when it was on the agenda, and we can move any items, public can, or we can move items from consent to regular. Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Hey, a couple quick things here, not seeing anyone else at this point. One of the most effective things I think we have done recently in terms of really severe calming on traffic that was so necessary is these speed humps. And Commissioner Juarez, to your point, I have seen those go in on some real neighborhood streets, particularly streets close to where I live, Cobb, Woodward, other streets on the north side, that have come out of specific requests, literally from maybe even neighbors that just live on that street, or from churches that are on that street, that sort of thing, not necessarily having to go through a neighborhood association process. And I think, they're not perfect, but they have certainly created a situation where you cannot roar down the street with the ease that you used to be able to on several of those streets that have speed humps. So in terms of immediate effect, you don't have to learn about it, Commissioner Pradel. One time you don't notice it is enough, because you go flying over that thing next time you know it's there. So anyway, pretty much immediate learning principles when it comes to those, as far as I've been able to tell. I think those have been as effective as anything we've tried along those lines. And then just something about trees here, which you don't have to answer, Anthony, tonight, but I'm just looking at that, somewhere in the neighborhood of 28,000 trees, something like that. And about half that many, a little less, open spaces. So even if we're going 500 a year, that's 25 years just to fill the open spaces. And then I was looking at the ones in poor condition, which are about 3,000 maybe of the total, if you look at the percentages. And so do we have any sense of how quickly a tree canopy, moves through its process from good to fair to poor, and whether we're doing enough, even to keep up. And you don't have to answer that now, but just wonder if you do that kind of thinking when you're looking at our tree canopy. It's certainly very, very important. And then the last thing about that is, as we look at those classifications, which amazing that we have that information now, but can we say, well, looks like, for example, are the poor condition trees spread all over Kalamazoo, or do we tend to have a higher likelihood of a empty space or poor quality tree in certain neighborhoods? And we need to go back and make sure we're focusing on that. For example, our more urban neighborhoods that might have more traffic, and it'd be better for the air and the quality of life to have more tree cover, that kind of thing. So just another thing, wonder if you're looking at that too when you look at those maps.
Certainly. This is Anthony Ladd speaking again. Yes, to answer your question, to have this amount of data is crucial to making smart decisions throughout the city. We're not just going through and planting trees where it looks like we have space. Certainly, that was a real motivation to doing this tree inventory, and really brought to light the need to properly fund this asset. Different than some of our other city assets. This one not only, it really touches on a quality of life, economic value, environmental. It really provides a lot to residents on a multifaceted level that a lot of our assets might not. So bringing this to light and having this information has been huge. What we see a lot, some of our neighborhoods, maybe houses were all built around the same time. So, if you imagine a new neighborhood being built, those trees were saplings. They were planted. So where we do have trees in poor conditions, we have seen some grouping, mainly because they were probably planted all at the same time. And that's pretty well distributed throughout the city. We have done some preliminary canopy study to target our lowest canopy areas. And I think, to your point, these are just right-of-way areas too. There's a lot more city than just our right-of-way. We're doing what we can to increase that canopy in the right-of-way. But I think next year in 2022, we are hoping to have more conversations internally with stakeholders. Also, the FFE has been a huge partner in this, but trying to lay out maybe a program that educates and gives residents the resources to plant trees on their property as well, and grow that canopy in other ways. So, and to answer your question, as far as the progression from good, fair, and poor, it's not necessarily a linear item that just with time. Not all planting spaces are created equally. Downtown tree spaces have significantly shorter lifespans than some where you have a 10 or 15 foot open space for it to really thrive. So we're really learning about the city's assets, but looking at it from a data standpoint has been really, really interesting, and looking at the benefits that asset brings.
Yeah, that's cool. I appreciate it. Any other questions for the great city team here tonight? All right, back to you, Manager Ritzma.
Well, that concludes the agenda for this evening, Your Honor. So.
All right, thank you, Manager Ritzma. Are any commissioner comments for this meeting? Commissioner Pradel.
Yeah, I just wanted to share really quick, just a thanks to the city team that presented tonight. But I think, just one thing that's a really cool distinction about our city is there's a lot of communities that do all this work with longitudinal planning, and they just take these giant binders of all the work they did, and they just stick it on a shelf. And at least in my 2 years that I've been a city commissioner, I have seen that document is alive, it's studied, and it's just really cool to see that. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Commissioner Pradel. Any other commissioner comments? All right. Well, it looks like we have about a half an hour, everybody, and anyone who's participated from the public, just a reminder, we have our business meeting starting at 7 o'clock, and you'll see all these great faces back again for that. So thanks for joining us, and we are adjourned.